Welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast, your home for weekly information and inspiration to help you get the graduate job of your dreams.
Hello and welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast with your host, James Curran. The Graduate Job Podcast is your home for all things related to helping you on your journey to find that amazing job. Each episode I bring together the best minds in the industry, speaking to leading authors, graduate recruiters and career coaches who bring decades of experience into a bite-sized weekly 30-minute-ish show. Put simply, this is a show I wish I had when I graduated. Hello and welcome to the 99th episode of the UK's #1 careers podcast. In today's episode I answer a reader question, which this time comes from Bruno. Bruno has been listening to episode 61 on how to get a graduate job with a 2-2 or third and asked me the following question. There are lots of companies who take people with a 2-2, but what about a third-class degree? Does that count as well? Or is there really no hope for someone who's got a third-class degree? Don't worry, Bruno, there is always hope. And today I will take you through what you need to do to get a graduate job with a third. We will cover why you need to take a bit of time to reflect on why you got a third. But importantly, you need to understand that this degree classification does not in any way define who you are as a person or what you're going to do with your life. We look at why you need to focus down in your approach and why graduate jobs and not graduate schemes will be the best way forward. Finally, we touch upon why experience is a key for your long-term success. Now, no matter where you are in your job search, this is an episode you won't want to miss. As always, you can find a full downloadable transcript and all the links from everything we talk about today over at graduatejobpodcast.com/third, which is THIRD. Before we start, let me tell you about the brilliant course I'm working on, cunningly titled How to Get a Graduate Job. This course is packed chock full of decades worth of experience into one step-by-step guide of everything you need to do to get a graduate job. There are videos, guides, handouts, cheat sheets, example CVs, cover letters, example answers to those annoying 200-word competency questions, help with video interviews. Look, if you need to know it to get a graduate job, it's in my course. The course is going live in August, but to be the first to hear about it and to get it at a never-to-be-repeated price with special bonuses, head to graduatejobpodcast.com/course and leave me an email. Okay, so let's jump straight into Bruno's question. There are lots of companies who take people with a 2-2, but what about a third-class degree? Does that count as well? Or is there really no hope for someone with a third-class degree? So, a couple of things before we start. If you haven't already, make sure you listen to my previous episode 61, links which you can find in the show notes, where I cover how to get a graduate job with a 2-2. Also, before we start, let's just make sure we're nice and clarified on exactly what we're talking about here, as overseas listeners might already be a bit confused with all this talk about 2s and 3s and thirds and 2-2s. So let's have a brief explanation of the degree classification system over here in the UK. So at the end of your degree, you're awarded what is known as an honours degree classification for all of your hard work over the 3 or 4 years. Now, if you score over 70%, then you get awarded first class honours, known as a first, which about 25% of people get. A grade of 60 to 69% is upper second class honours, known as a 2-1, and about 50% of people get a 2-1. A grade of 50 to 59% is a lower second-class honours, known as a 2-2, and about 20% of people get a 2-2. And then there is between 40 and 49% is a third-class honours, known as a third, which is what Bruno emailed us about today. And about 5% of people who graduate tend to get a third. And if you get under 40%, it is a fail. For listeners in the USA, a rough rule of thumb comparison with your grade point average GPA would be 3.7 to 4 would be about a first, 3.3 to 3.69 probably about a 2-1, 2.7 to 3.29 would be a 2-2, and below a 2.7 GPA probably equates to a third. But there's no direct comparison, but that's a general rule of thumb there. Now, why does any of this matter? Well, it matters because in recent years, many graduate schemes, although not all, have set getting a 2-1 degree as a barrier to entry to being able to apply. Below that, and you can't apply. Now, some companies will take people with 2-2s, but Bruno today wants to know, what about if you have a third? So let's explore what he needs to do. Now, point number 1 is self-reflection. Self-reflection in your job search is always important, and I think this is especially the case with Bruno. Have a sit down and be honest with yourself about why you got a third, as this is going to impact what you might want to do next, and it's also, importantly, about how you're going to present your story to employers, because they're going to want to ask. Were there other things going on in your life that knocked you off your stride at university? Was it bereavement? Was it illness? I mean, these are huge things, big life events that can really impact the overall grade that you're going to get at the end of your 3 years. Or did you choose the wrong degree? Did you study advanced mathematics or nuclear physics and it was just a really, really difficult subject? Or did you have a lot of extracurricular stuff going on? Were you running sports teams, societies, running the student union? Were you maybe working 40 hours a week at the same time to pay for your university studies and also trying to support your family? Were you running a business on the side? Or did you just spend 3 years partying like a rock star and just didn't go to any lectures or do any work? Have a period of self-reflection and be honest with yourself. Being honest is important because people are going to ask you about your degree, so you need to have an answer. Now, maybe that answer is, getting my third-class degree is the proudest achievement of my life. I'm not naturally academic, and I was told that I was never going to be bright enough to go to university, but I worked really hard through my A-levels, managed to get into university, and I've worked really hard through university, and I've achieved the goal that I set myself. Or it might be, I was on track for a 2-1, but suffered a family bereavement in my final year, and to be honest, it really threw me off track, and I really struggled in the final year, especially with exams, and I ended up getting a third. Or it might be that university was great fun. I developed some amazing transferable skills from starting my own business and running club nights and also running the Entrepreneur Society. Now, whatever the reason is, you need to own it and embrace it. Because part 2 is, remember, you are not your degree. You are not your degree classification. Getting a third doesn't mean you're a failure. Someone with a first, or a 2-1 or a 2-2, they're not better than you. Getting any degree is a great achievement, so don't judge yourself and be self-critical. Getting a third is not something that is going to hold you back in life or stop you from being a success or from doing what you want to do, unless you let it. Let's go to a quote from Rory Sutherland, vice chairman of the huge multinational advertising giant, the Ogilvy Group. He said, "I've asked around and nobody has any evidence to suggest that for any given university, recruits with a first-class degree turn into better employees than those with thirds. If anything, the correlation operates in reverse." So he's vice chairman of this huge company, and he's saying that, in effect, people with thirds tend to perform better at work than people with firsts. There you go. There is no correlation between your degree and actual job performance. Getting a third doesn't mean you're not going to be amazing at work. And let's break down why that is the case. If you think about what you need to be good at to get a good degree, it's essay writing, memorising, regurgitating information in a timed exam in May and June each year. Now, great skills, but ones which necessarily don't reflect to what companies are looking for. So just because you got a third doesn't mean that you don't have the skills which companies are crying out for. Now, if I think about my friends, one friend got a first from Cambridge. Lovely guy. But by his own admission, he has terrible interpersonal skills. What he really enjoys is working by himself and not speaking to anyone else unless he has to. And as a result, he found university a breeze, as it was all the things he loved: sitting at a library, revising, and not speaking to anyone else. So that's good at university, but now put him in an office, put him in meetings, put him doing presentations, and he knows that these are not things that he is good at. And so do the people he works for. Getting a first has helped my mate to get a job, but it's not going to help him going forward. Now, what you can't do if you've got a third is to start to mope, doubt yourself, or to think that you aren't good enough. Don't let an arbitrary degree classification define you or what you want to do with your life. Remember, you are not your degree. You have a range of amazing skills, competencies, and experiences. Don't let your grade keep you down. Be positive and confident, which takes us on to point 3. What you need to do is focus your efforts. You need to be realistic, and despite how much you think it's unfair, Many companies want candidates with a 2-1 degree or a 2-2. Don't take it personally. The reason that companies do this is just so that they can limit and manage the number of applicants that they get, and so they aren't snowed under with tens of thousands of applications each year. Do they miss out on good candidates as a result? Yes, they know this, but for the cost and the time reasons, they acknowledge that it's a price worth paying. Now, companies will put their degree requirements front and centre on their graduate recruitment pages, and this is a really key point. You need to keep this in mind with the companies that you apply to. If companies say they want a 2-1, it's not even worth your time applying, because they will filter your application straight into the bin. If you leave it out and don't say what you got anyway, they'll assume that you've not met the criteria, and again, you'll be filtered straight into the bin. So you need to focus and pick your battles. Now, Bruno, the good news is one company who are forward thinking about degrees is professional services company EY, who don't mind about the grade you got or the course you did, as long as you've got a degree. The reason they did this is they thought they were missing out on great candidates by restricting it just to people with a 2-1 or above. And they realised that people bring with them a broad range of skills and experience, and that a degree is just a small part of that. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have extremely high standards throughout the process. It's still going to be really tough to get a job, but it means that you are able to apply with a third. So Bruno, that is one company you should definitely have your eye on. At the moment though, they are the only large company with a big graduate scheme who I could find who have adopted this approach. Listeners, if I'm missing any companies who also accept people with thirds, drop me a note and let me know at hello@graduatejobpodcast.com. So let's move on to point 4, which is focus on graduate jobs, not graduate schemes. Don't think for a moment that the big graduate schemes are all that is out there. There is a huge difference between graduate schemes and graduate jobs. An interesting stat for you, courtesy of episode 26 with Simon Reichwald, is that the top 500 graduate employers in the UK take only 10% of the total graduate market every year. Let's say that one again. The top 500 biggest graduate employers take only 10% of the total graduate market. So 90% of graduates end up going to work for smaller companies or startup companies. Now that is a huge number of roles out there and a huge market that you need to be applying to. So Bruno, you need to be very clear on the type of role you're looking for and the type of companies, and then to carefully target those companies. When you target those companies, if it's someone that you really, really want to work for, you might want to think laterally. You might need to start with a more junior, lower level position, showing them what you can do and impressing them, and then working your way up. Your degree and what you got at university only matters for that first role. Once you've got that first role, it's all about your personal achievement and what you can do. Which goes on to point 5, which is experience is the key. Linked to the point above, the more experience you get in your chosen field, the less relevant your degree classification becomes. If you can show companies that you've done the role well in the past, that mitigates for them their risk. They want to know that hiring you will be a sure thing and you will get on and earn them some money. By showing them that you've done the work or something similar before, you can tick that box, which is why work experience is so important. But then to the proverbial problem, where do you go for work experience? How can you get work experience if you've got no work experience? This really depends on what sort of work you're looking for, Bruno. But options include trying to get an internship, volunteering for free if you can afford it, volunteering with charities to build up that experience. Remember though, that how you approach a company is crucially important. When you approach people about work experience, remember that whoever you go to is probably going to be really busy. And if you just make them the offer of, can I come and work for you in the office for free? It's not actually that an attractive offer to them, because then they think, oh dear, this is going to be effort. I've got to find you work to do, what you're going to be doing each day, who's going to look after you, who's going to train you, all those sort of questions. The better approach is to sell the benefits of what you're going to do for them. You could say, I want to come in and this is what I want to do for you, and this is how it's going to benefit you, and this is a difference that I'm going to make. Before you send it in, put yourself in their position and think about what the objections are that they're going to have about you coming in to work for them. And then try and mitigate them in your approach. Talk about the benefits, but also talk about how you're a self-starter, you work under your own initiative, you won't need to be looking after all the time and managing, etc., etc. Make it easy for them to say yes. And the beauty of work experience is you never know where it's going to lead. Which takes us to the final point. Be patient. Your career will be defined by who you are, not what you got at university. If you have a dream of where you want to be prepared to play the long game. Remember, it's not where you start that matters, it's where you finish. 6 months down the line, nobody's going to care in the slightest about what university you went to, what degree you did, and what grade you got. It's all about what you can do. It might take you slightly longer to reach your destination, but never give up. It's never over if you never give up. So keep focused on where you want to get to and keep going one step at a time. So there you go, Bruno. I hope that was useful. Show notes, as I mentioned, at graduatejobpodcast.com/third, THIRD. If you have a question like Bruno, then drop me a note at hello@graduatejobpodcast.com and I'll see what I can do. Or if you're struggling to find a job and need some one-on-one coaching and support, then drop me a line there as well. Don't forget to sign up to hear about the upcoming course on how to get a graduate job, which you can do via the show notes. This course will take you through everything you need to do and everything you need to know to impress at every stage of the application process. Sign up so you can get it with special bonuses and offers when it goes live in August. And finally, if you want to support the show, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe the podcast wherever it is that you listen. Hope you enjoyed it today, but more importantly, hope you use it and apply it. See you next week.